Hi everybody, my name is Miss Shannon, and this is storytelling for kindergarten age learners. You know, writing a story is kind of like baking a cake. We need certain ingredients for the magic to happen. To bake a cake, you're going to need flour, sugar, eggs, and butter. But to write a story, you're going to need characters, setting, and plot. In our last lesson, we learned a very basic definition for story, which is an account of imaginary or real characters and events told for entertainment or information. We also learned that character is a person in a novel that's a book, play, or movie. Another definition for character is the people, animals, or creatures in a story. Ask yourself, who is this story about? To review, the characters are the people, animals, or creatures in a story. So the person that we see for this character sheet is Little Red Riding Hood. So she is a character that is a person. And then next to her, a lot of you may recognize him. This is Bruni from Frozen 2, and he is what we would classify as an animal, but also he could work for the classification of a creature. And here we have Eva from WALL-E. So again, characters are people, animals, or creatures in a story. Oftentimes in stories, characters change. They start out thinking, feeling, and acting in one way, but by the end of the story, they think and they feel and they act in another. Let's take a familiar story. How about the movie Toy Story? Who is our main character? It's Woody. Woody thinks Andy no longer wants to play with him anymore when Andy receives Buzz Lightyear as a present.
Thank you. Now, thank you all for your kind welcome.
Say, what's that button do?
I'll show you.
Buzz Lightyear to the rescue!
Oh. Hey, Woody's got something like that. His is a pull string. Only it sounds like a car ran over it.
Oh, yeah, but not like this one. This is a quality sound system. Probably all copper wiring.
So, remember our emojis? We got silly emoji. What would you say the emoji is that Woody felt in that scene? I would say he was sad emoji. Woody feels rejected and sad. Our emotions have a big impact on the choices we make, and they have a big impact on the choices characters make. Characters like Woody. So what does Woody do? How does he act? He tries to get rid of Buzz. Why does he do this? Because he wants to be Andy's favorite toy, no matter the cost. Does Woody still want this at the end of the movie? No, he changes. He discovers that Buzz is a good friend and he cares about him. Today we are continuing to work on our Book of Me project. And the main character is you. So, for the next part of the Book of Me, we are going to need a piece of paper, a pencil, and an eraser, and colors or markers. The first step is we are going to draw a picture of ourselves, the main character of our stories, for the second page of our book, the Book of Me. Here is a picture I have drawn of myself. Like I said in the last lesson, as new drawers, when learning to draw, it's good to look at examples of other simple drawings as reference. Comic strips, illustrations online, and storybooks are all good places to look. For me, I found an illustrator on Instagram that I liked and tried to kind of emulate her style. Maybe draw yourself in your favorite outfit or your favorite Halloween costume. Whatever tells us the most about you as a character. Are you wearing a swimsuit because your favorite thing in the world is to swim? Or are you going to draw yourself in a spacesuit because you hope to be an astronaut someday? These choices tell us so much about you and who you are and what you care about as a person and a character. What do the choices you make in your drawings tell us about the way you think, feel, and act? So, the next story element that we are going to learn about today is setting. Setting is the when and where the story takes place. So, you ask yourself, when and where? Setting can be a garden. Setting could be on the railroad. What is the setting of your story? This is the second part of our next page. We are going to draw the setting behind the drawing that we did earlier of ourselves, our main character. So we're all home right now, so we can stay safe. So why not have your setting be at your house? You can draw a picture of your bedroom. It'll be a veritable show and tell. We can figure out what your favorite toys are, your favorite games, your favorite books. Put it all on the page. A setting can tell you so much about a character, whether they're messy or clean or organized, or they really like Sonic the Hedgehog. Or you can draw your setting as a place you would like to go in your imagination. Maybe a forest with unicorns, or outer space in a spaceship. Setting is the place where story happens. So, where do you want your story to happen? For my setting reference, I chose a painting by Hiroshi Yoshida because a mountain stream sounds lovely right about now. The third part of today's activity involves plot. What is plot? The plot is the series of events in a story, the important parts from the beginning, the middle, and the end. Ask yourself, what happens in a story? That is a plot. Now imagine you go see a movie that your parents or a friend didn't get to see, and they ask you, what was it about? What happened? You are telling them the plot when you answer that question. Events are the things that happen inside of a story. First, we start with the beginning of the story. The beginning of a story tells us who the characters are. For a book of me, that's you. And the beginning of a story also tells us the setting. Right now, we're on a roller coaster. Where is the story happening? Is the beginning of your story starting in your house or in a jungle? The next part of the story is the middle. The middle of the story is telling us what is happening to the characters. Normally in stories, characters go on some kind of adventure or journey, or they have a problem to solve. The final part of our story or our plot is the end. The end answers the questions like, how did the characters solve their problems? And did the characters change? Not all characters have to. But as we can see here, this is Woody from Toy Story, and we know that he does change. So just to review, the plot is the series of events in a story. The important parts from the beginning, the middle, and the end. Ask, what happens? Now that we know about our story elements, how to bake a cake, let's continue with our story. We have drawn our main character, that's you, and our setting. That's where you decided that your story is going to happen. So that could be outer space, your family's home, in a dark forest. What kind of story do you want it to be? The setting helps you figure out a lot. And now let's begin to work on our plot. Last week, we started our stories with the day we were born. This week, on page 2, we will start thinking about our plot. What's your story problem? What do you want to happen in your story? What kind of adventure do you want you, the main character, to take? This week, I'd like for you to just think about it, looking at your page where you decided to set your story, and just bounce a couple of ideas off your family members. And then next week, we'll get to work writing it out. Today's story time is How to Catch a Star. So while listening to the story today, pick out who the characters are and where the setting is, and try to relate to your parents or your family members, the beginning, the middle, and the end. That is your plot. How to Catch a Star by Oliver Jeffers. He is the author, that means he wrote the story, and he is also the illustrator, that means he drew the pictures. So that's what you guys will be. You will be the authors and the illustrators of your story. How to Catch a Star. Once there was a boy, and the boy loved stars very much. Every night, the boy watched the stars from his window and wished he had one of his very own. He dreamed of how the star would be his friend. They would play hide and go seek and take long walks together. The boy decided he would try to catch one. He thought that getting up early in the morning would be best, because then the star would be tired from being up in the sky all night. The next day, he set out at sunrise, but he could not see a star anywhere. So he sat down and waited for one to appear. He waited, and he waited, and ate lunch, and waited, and after dinner, he waited some more. Finally, just before the sun was about to go away, he saw a star. The boy tried to jump up and grab it, but he could not jump high enough. So very carefully, he climbed to the top of the tallest tree he could find. But the star was still way out of reach. He thought he might lasso the star with the life preserver from his father's boat, but it was much too heavy for him to carry. If only he could fly up in a spaceship and just grab the star. But the only spaceship he owned was made of paper, and it didn't fly well at all. Perhaps he could get a seagull to help, fly up into the sky to reach a star. But the only seagull he could find didn't want to help. The boy worried he would never catch a star. Just then, he noticed something floating in the water. It was the prettiest star he had ever seen. Just a baby star. It must have fallen from the sky. He tried to fish it out with his hands. But when the boy reached out to touch the star, it just rippled through his fingers. Now the boy was sad, but in his heart, the wish just wouldn't give up. Slowly, he began walking home. And that's when he saw it, washed up on the bright golden sand. The boy had caught a star of his very own. The end. Well, I had so much fun with everybody today. Again, sad I couldn't be in person, but feel so lucky that we can still communicate via the World Wide Web. So today, as you walk away from today's class, knowing what the story elements are, we have character, and we have setting, and we have plot, which is the beginning, middle, and the end. I want you to pick out a storybook at home, even if you can't read, and I want you to look through the drawings and see if you can figure out what the story is about. What is the setting? Who is the main character? What can you tell me about them just from looking at a drawing of them? And then try to describe what happens in the plot to your mom or dad or a sibling. I hope you have fun and happy storytelling, happy reading, and stay safe. And don't forget to wash your hands. Bye, guys.